والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين الشفيع ذنوبنا وحبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا بالقاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد والصلاة والسلام على آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي أما بعد السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for allowing us to witness another blessed day of Friday and just to share a few thoughts with you. If you look at our behaviors and of that of people around us, predominantly so now, you will find that we are constantly engaged in wanting to achieve gratification. This is happening all the time with young people, with older people, but predominantly with younger people. And there is a whole term that has become known by this, which is known as instant gratification. This is a habit where we forego short-term pain and instead indulge in some kind of pleasures that may ultimately result in long-term pain or disadvantage. In other words, I find reasons or excuses not to do something because of the pain it creates in the moment, even though I know that this action may necessarily help me to attain my long-term goals. So I avoid that thing. So this can manifest itself in procrastination and in a way is a kind of a self-sabotage. I get caught up in the indulging temptations of the moment, and what that results in is at the cost of my long-term goals. And this is precisely why instant gratification rarely gets us of what we want in the long term. Think of the WhatsApp messages that are coming constantly while, for example, a student has just decided to study. It's very hard to resist that ping or that notification from Facebook or WhatsApp or wherever it may be. This is the short-term pleasure. I'm compelled to open the message, respond to it, be distracted, look at the screen, answer, smile, and forward, and whatever it may be. Without thinking about it, I may have lost 10, 15, 20 minutes of my focus, whether it's study, whether it is work. Imagine those moments spread out over the whole day in whatever I am doing. It can often lead to a person becoming very vulnerable, and this whole trap of instant gratification can lead to addictions. It can lead to anxiety, it can lead to anger and impulsive behavior. And if you look at it closer, it's actually a reflection of one's lack of self-discipline, and it's highlighting to me that I'm unable to control my urges. Of course, as we said, this has significant effects in my life. Narrow-minded thinking, poor decision-making, and planning habits. Think of this, how this might be relative to you in your own life, in your own circumstances. But many might say, you live only once. Life is to be enjoyed. Why delay instant gratification and live a life of no limits? Aish karo. Enjoy. You live only once. Well, that's true, we live only once, and maybe that is the reason why you need to be so mindful, because you only live once. There was a Professor Walter Mischel of Stanford University who came out with this very well-known, famous experiment, which was known as the marshmallow experiment. You might have heard of it, in which he gathered children or students, yes? They were given a marshmallow in front of them, and they were told to wait. If they could wait, after a while they would be given 2 marshmallows. So it was actually delaying their gratification. So here is delayed gratification as opposed to instant gratification. The students who could delay instant gratification eventually were seen to be psychologically better adjusted, more dependable, motivated, and scored even better grades. There is something with this. It improves one's willpower and helps me reach my long-term goals faster, actually. And they said that these characteristics remained when they revisited these students in 2011. They said that by and large these characteristics remained. And yet we succumb to instant gratification. We think we are in control, but many times, you know better than I, how easily we can manipulate our own selves. We are very clever. We can manipulate our own selves. You know, remember that ice cream that I said that I wouldn't have because I was watching what I was eating, but despite that I gave into it. You know, people who advocate this life, you live only once, carpe diem, seize the day. We also need to hear about carpentua poma nepotis. Good things come to those who wait, or as we say in Urdu, sabar ka phal meetha hai. Yes, the fruits of patience are sweet. Why do we give in, though, the question is, to instant gratification when we know that it is harmful in the long run? It diminishes focus and takes us away from reaching our long-term goals. Instant gratification is the desire to experience pleasure or fulfillment without delay or without deferment. It is when you want it now, and this is part of our psyche. Yes? And if God wills, inshallah, we'll talk about it in more detail at some other time. Jung has done some great research into this. He divides the psyche into the id, which is the most basic part of our psyche, which everybody is born with. Instant gratification, this is an energy that we have from childhood. And then divides it into the ego and to the superego. And the superego is eventually that which controls this. When we don't get fulfillment, our psychological response is anxiety or tension, which obviously we want to avoid. So therefore, many times, it becomes a negative cycle. It becomes a form of self-sabotage, where I get caught up in indulging in the temptations, which then I don't realize is at the cost of my long-term goals. What does it mean then to delay gratification? So delaying gratification or delayed gratification is a habit where I forego this short-term pleasure or comfort in order to gain significant long-term pleasure and future rewards. It helps me focus in achieving these long-term goals if I can leave this short-term pleasure. And some of the advantages of delaying instant gratification is that it gives me more control over my life. It's basically me having control over my mind. My brain is working for me rather than me working for the brain. Yes? Is it me giving orders to the brain, or is it the brain giving orders to me? Furthermore, delaying gratification helps me value and appreciate the hard work and effort I put into things. Yes? We can feel the experience of putting effort and pain, and that being a part of the process in achieving long-term goals. It also helps me to strengthen my mind and shape my character, building self-control and willpower, reinforcing self-discipline, and teaching me about patience. It's actually one habit that determines how successful I may become and how much I may ultimately achieve in my life. Perseverance, patience, consistency. There are a lot of strategies for delayed gratification. One thing it is, according to neuroscience, which hints at the power of imagining the future. When you are persevering with something, imagine the outcome of that hard work and perseverance that you are putting into it. It may seem hard now, yes, but imagine. Imagine the palace, at the time, the person who constructed the Taj Mahal, for example, he must have had a vision in mind, yes? But those people working may not have had. But imagine if they would have had the vision of what it would become one day. It would make their work on a day-to-day basis much easier. Try and imagine in graphic details your goals and visualize the outcome of your delayed gratification. It's not an inborn trait, self-control. We can develop it. Also, it's very important to know what you want, what are the values that I stand for, and therefore create a plan to achieve that, what you want. It will lead me to prioritize things. Shifting also my mental focus from the short term to finding something else. Yes, try to distract myself to something more productive, yes, from something more destructive. Be mindful, be reflective of my actions and my choices. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He may allow us to be mindful of these things and of things around us. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. In the second part, we just want to look at this whole notion of instant gratification and delayed gratification on a larger scale, and particularly how this is looked at in regards to an Islamic way of life. Our end goal is nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is another discussion which we have talked about. What does it mean to be near to Allah? But that is the end goal. And with the reward of the hereafter, if we sacrifice the immediate pleasures of this world, as we find in the Quran, وَمَا هَذِهِ الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا لَحْمٌ وَلَعِبٌ وَإِنَّ الدَّارَ الْآخِرَةَ لَهِيَ الْحَيَوَانُ لَوْ كَانُوا يَعْلَمُونَ. And the life of this world is nothing but a sport and a play. And as for the next abode, that most surely is the life, did they but know. Self-control and delayed gratification are in fact the principles of Islam. This whole verse is talking about delayed gratification, having a lid on instant gratification. And it is a way of seeking nearness to God. Patience, self-control and willpower consequently give us this greater reward, and it becomes a positive feedback loop with delayed gratification. It's so easy to give in to temptations, but as you see, and as you would have seen within yourself, you many times are much better off without them, academically, socially, spiritually. Interestingly enough, it is also shown that those with delayed gratification are often those who do better academically. They have fewer behavioral problems. They earn better salaries, if that is a way to measure something. Not always, but if that is a measure of success. They also struggle less with addiction. And if you look at drug, alcohol addiction, also, although there may be bigger innate problems, but initially it is that of instant gratification. And we should not think that we do not have these problems within our community. And if you look at ourselves, we are all so obsessed with everything being so instant and quick. Instant food, microwave food, instant credit, instant purchase, one-click purchase, one press button, tap. Everything is supposed to be so quick, in a moment of haste, without you actually having time to think about what's going on. This whole culture of jaldi, quickly. It's apparently supposed to make our lives easier, but really, it's instilling a really false mentality within us that's just going to end up being reflected on other aspects of life as well. We are not saying that all these technological advancements are bad, but how are they relating to us? Yes? How have I become as a human being when I want things so quickly? I have water at the disposal of the tap only. Has that led me to value water the same way compared to those people who had to live on a certain amount of water per day or food? How has that made me as a human being? And how is that reflecting on other aspects of my life, such as faith? We expect at times that there should be an instant response to my prayers, instant reflections of our good deeds, instant results. We feel like we should be able to change instantly, that I should instantly become a better human being and do it all at once. I should be able to perfect my salah instantly. I should be able to pray on time instantly. Yes, all these are good things. It's because we are used to having instant results in this culture of instant gratification, we also bring this to our faith. And as we know, it doesn't always work that way. Things like perseverance, hard work, commitment, all seems to have been forgotten about, especially when it comes to one's religion and our relationship with it. Islam isn't always about instant results. It's about consistently disciplining myself and enriching my soul over time. And something that requires this amount of conscious commitment, if you think about it, will definitely be far more rewarding than anything that's handed to me in a quick instant, a quick fix. So we shouldn't give up and be indifferent to something that can essentially bring us a greater sense of peace and quality of life. You will find in the hadith that it's often talked about that a small number of deeds which are constant and regular are considered better than a large quantity of devotional acts which are accompanied by laziness, dissatisfaction, and which I will not feel very good after having performed them. The Quran promises rewards and abundant good fortune in the fields of knowledge and understanding when people are firmly entrenched, people who are steadfast. If they are steadfast on the path of Allah, we shall provide them with abundant water. Surah number 72, verse 16. If they are steadfast, they shall be provided with abundant water. Water here speaking, meaning the favors and the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we have a narration in which Lady Aisha said, when the household of Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon them, committed to an act of worship, they would do it consistently. Self-control is something that is sadly lacking today in the developed world. Many psychologists and researchers are beginning to suggest that it is lacking because we have concentrated on developing the quality of self-esteem rather than self-control. We have put all the focus on self-esteem rather than on self-control. According to such psychologists, self-confidence is not always the key to success, which we have been taught and told all around. Self-confidence equals success. But more research is showing that it is not always the case. What one psychologist says, what's become really prevalent over the last 2 decades is that the idea that being highly self-confident, loving yourself, etc., believing in yourself, is the key to success. But this is very untrue. Another professor says that self-control is much more powerful and well supported as a cause of personal success. And we are relating this to delayed gratification as opposed to instant gratification. As one elder beautifully said, and put this in whatever way you want, it is better to be trusted rather than to be loved. People want to be loved today only. But it is better to be trusted, this old man said to me. We live in an era that thrives on instantaneous fulfillment of our most complex desires and temptations. Especially, you can see it's a self-serving culture that seemingly limits opportunities to exhibit patience and self-control. Today, society is encouraging this. However, psychological research has linked delayed gratification with improved health, social relationships, decision-making, and overall happiness. And we can certainly expect a positive effect on our spirituality as well. How, despite this, according to cognitive and behavioral economics, the idea of sacrifice is instinctual, especially when it means to leave a small reward for a greater reward for after. It begs the question, why don't we do it more often? We know our mind, if I leave this now, I will get more better. It's instinctive also. Your mind will agree to this. But we find in the Quran, خُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ مِنْ عَجَلٍ. Man is created with haste. We have this element of haste and quickly. Man is ever hasty in another place. Research confirms that our minds act hastily at times when making a decision between two choices, fixing heavily on the waiting period for the payoff. This leads to rationalizing and re-evaluating the smaller immediate reward as being worth more compared to the greater future reward. It's hard for us to wait. I'd rather take what I can get here and now rather than waiting for something more which is going to come in the future. And if you look at it, this actually is reflecting the daily battle within my nafs. There is an evolving tug of war between the immediate satisfaction of our desire and the patient seeking of Allah's pleasure and ultimate reward of the hereafter. And as you know of this verse, beautified for people is the love of that which they desire, of women, sons, heaping sums of gold and silver, etc., etc. That is the enjoyment of worldly life. But Allah has with him the best return. We are not denying these things and their place. They of course have their place, for Allah has created them. But we should not lose focus on the hereafter. We should not lose focus for what is the true aim of ours. And eventually we see that ultimately it will boil down to how confident I am of the hereafter and how confident I am of my faith in God and how I would believe in the hereafter and what is about to come. If I think about the future, many times I might find it vague or unclear. Of course, it will be very difficult to invest in it. But if I am certain about the future, if I am certain about the hereafter, investing in it will become much more easier. And as we said before, there is a reason why paradise is also explained in details. The houses, the fruits, because you can visualize it. When you visualize it, you become invested in it. And on the other side also how the fire is explained in detail. You can actually visualize it and in that way avoid it. And how beautifully we end with this verse. It's found in Surah number 39 verse 10. As-sabiruna ajrahum bighayri hisab. Those who patiently persevere will truly receive a reward without measure. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He may awaken our hearts to the true realities of this world and that we may be able to glimpse towards the hereafter. We also pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for peace and calm in Kashmir, in Hong Kong, for our beloved Sheikh Zakzaki, for all the people. The world is in a lot of turmoil and difficulty and turbulence. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He may bring ease and peace to these places and to these people. Can we recite a Surah Fatiha? Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin.